Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Money and the Law, My FM 101.3 with your host, Jay Marson. He's from the Marson Law Group. I'm John Drohan from Main Effort Financial. Tom Harmon is providing the filmography today for the Hollison Hub, the artist formerly known as HCAT.
Enshrining this show right here to the Library of Congress. It might end up on a spaceship. You know, sometimes they put like a recording of something, like a gold record. So this could be the show that they project into space. And
that it lands on some faraway planet, a different galaxy, and they look at it like,
what's going on in
those
America?
Guys got some stuff. Yeah. What's going on Earth? What do you mean, America?
Yeah,
figure it out. A little bit more representation than just America.
We're all billion, all 10 billion.
That's right, all of us. That's exactly what Tom said he was going to do.
Exactly what he's here for.
That's exactly what they do. And if for some reason they don't have the video compatibility, you know, like back in the old days when of course, you know, my wife's from England, so we go to England, we bring DVDs for the kids.
Sure.
Those DVDs don't work in the English DVD player. You're like, wow, it's got a little bit too much twang to it. I don't know. But
I always think too, like this show, because of the way Tom, documents every single second of it. This is also a very good representation of if something ever happened like the zombie apocalypse, and then you wanted to when you had to like rebuild civilization, like they would have a blueprint, right? They would have this blueprint right here.
Like in the Matrix, right? It's like 1,000 years go by, 1,000 years of darkness. They dig this up, and they're like, what was humanity like?
Yeah, we need to recreate humanity. How do we do it? And they recreate it in kind of our image and likeness, not to steal the line, but in our image and likeness is what they do. That's probably where it goes.
And maybe they would make some kind of like cyborg bots that look exactly like us.
Exactly.
I mean,
we'd be in a museum somewhere.
Where's the script for this movie? Because right now, I think we need to start writing it.
It's like when you go to the Hall of Presidents at Disney, they would but it would mean
those guys. They look so real.
Animatronic. That's exactly what it would be.
But you're talking 1,000 years in the future, so you can only imagine what the tech's like back then, right?
Probably not. It's better than it is right now.
You talk. like true Terminators.
Yeah.
But the opposite, like
Moore's Law.
Like the inversion, inversion of Terminator. Like we are providing. We're the genesis
peace
of
and
life.
humanity. Peace and humanity.
Okay.
So that's what you're here, folks. You are part of the rebuilding of civilization post-zombie apocalypse. Here we are.
And those guys, like, what are they spending an hour talking about? What they're talking about? What an estate plan? What is a trust?
Like, the first 15 minutes is them talking about how they're rebuilding civilization after the zombie
for the
apocalypse.
TV for this movie with animatronics and the Hall of Presidents at Disney.
That's right.
All of that is connected.
It all comes together
in the first segment of today's show. So
they call that the weave in Congress.
So for those of you first joining us, you're like, wow, this money and the law thing looks interesting. I might want to learn about the money or the law.
Tell them what we do.
So what we do is, along with some of the other, kind of things we were talking about, is we talk about everything that has to do with pretty much everything. It has to do with like the law, and primarily we focus on estate planning, planning and elder law planning. That is that's my part.
There are other areas out there. We just don't traffic in those areas.
No, but as any good lawyer will tell you, if you ask a lawyer, they'll give you, well, I know a little bit about this,
right?
I
took a class.
And a really good lawyer will say, you know what, that's not my area of expertise. However, I know a guy or I know a girl, and here's their number, and they'll take care.
A really good lawyer will do is they'll call the other lawyer, discuss their referral fee.
Guess what?
Make the referral.
Well, that's what.
Do the handout.
That happens behind closed doors. That's right. The client doesn't need to know that, right? That's right. It's like the injury attorney. Don't worry. You only pay if you win, right?
That's right.
That's right. You only pay if you win. So we talk about that. We talk about the law. We talk about estate planning and kind of what you need to do to get yourself, prepared to kind of, when you shuffle off this mortal coil and your legacy and your estate and kind of how everything goes the way you want. All of your hard life work gets paid off, goes in the direction that you want it to go. And we also talk about, and then the other side of that, we talk about money, right? We talk about kind of the best ways to kind of understand money, manage your money, like
make it grow,
things to focus on,
build your wealth,
things not to focus on. And we, in the past, this is the 14th year that we're in this, right?
Yeah.
We've pretty much covered a lot of ground. There's been a lot of water under that bridge.
We haven't covered all of it. We're close.
No,
We're close to
no.
tapping it out. We're close to, close to, like
And
we've covered
maybe-
everything. There's no more to cover.
Maybe now and again we'll reach back and touch on, some things that we may have covered, several years
Things
back.
change. Things
Yeah.
change. Rules change.
So it's funny. Speaking of the old days, I
Okay.
had
Oh, boy.
I had the good fortune. I had a little story to tell you, and Tom Harmon was there.
Oh.
So as you know, I'm the play-by-play announcer for the girls soccer team
Sure,
for Holliston
yeah.
girls soccer.
Yeah.
We've been doing that. This is our 6th year doing it, right?
Yep.
So and I had the great pleasure to have Tom Harmon and none other than Don Cronin were in the booth with me.
Cronin the
last
Barbarian,
week. Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. And then they were there. No, actually, it was this the other day. Yeah, right. So
Nice.
there was a Monday night. So we had, so I had like the old. One of the sponsors. In fact, I'm thinking about we may need another fall
Oh, here we
sponsor.
go. Here we
I'm gonna-
go.
Well, we'll talk about that offline. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
that's-
sure that
that's a parking lot
I'm
conversation.
sure there's a good law firm that might want to be part of the fall
Sure, yeah,
sports
yeah.
sponsorship. But however, the subject of money in the law came up because. It was, the two, like the original executive producer, like
Yep.
the OG executive producer, and
yep,
then the current
yep.
one. And of course, I was there, and we talked about you, all in good, in your absence.
I'm sure.
On
I'm sure.
online.
Sure.
And Jay, we were saying how Jay Marsden would be proud of us right now talking about, so money in the law, because what we were talking about, just a little pitch for the Holliston Hub, is so Holliston Hub, the artist formerly known as HCAT, as you know, we get the majority of our revenue from cable TV, right?
Yeah.
And guess what everybody's starting to do right now? Cut the cable.
Cut the cable is right,
So
yeah.
so everybody who loves, all the HCAT and loves the programming like Money in the Law.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
And you're like, oh, we love it. Yeah, we love watching sports. We love watching our kids' plays and all that stuff. We love that. However, when you cut your cable, then that means less revenue that comes into HCAT. So HCAT is a nonprofit organization. We're raising money, right?
Yep.
So there's you can always help out. So it's kind of like that NPR model, right? Like,
Sure.
hey, this program is brought to you by your generous donations, as well as, I don't know, say Marsden Law Group, I mean, whatever the
MacArthur Family Foundation.
Whoever-
They went on
one
the
of-
list. I'm
one of those.
pretty familiar with the names.
You've
Yep.
seen that,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So that's where, and we were talking about the program of Money in the Law, which I think is the highest grossing program
Probably.
in the history of
probably.
cable.
Cash cow.
Yeah,
Cash cow.
Tom's
Yep.
Tom's got that number.
Big residuals. Big residuals.
It's why our contract gets renewed every single year.
Well, it's funny. I'm a big NPR listener, right? And probably not as big a supporter of it as I should be, but I'm a big consumer of their content. and you have noticed it, most definitely in the very recent past, where they've kind of moved to basically what they're doing is a subscription model. Where they're
Yeah.
basically saying, look, if you love the content, we're looking for, and they're looking for recurring revenues, right? It's not about pledge drives where we come out and they're looking to build that revenue stream and trying to get people to kind of get into it because of cuts that happen. We won't get into the politics around the cuts, but
don't
cuts
want
cuts to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and all that stuff. So those are the issues, right?
The Hub
So-
is doing the same thing. It's the same like that, and that subscription kind of mentality, which kind of we're all used to, right? I mean, this isn't everybody's. I bet everybody that's listening right now has some form of a subscription that they pay every month that they don't know that every
don't even know they're doing
that
it.
they don't know they're doing it, and it just money comes out and they don't miss the money because. They, because they want to have access thing, and I mean NPR is a great example of, if you're an NPR, of course you would do it. It's like it's a no-brainer, right? It's
Yep,
like why
that's
wouldn't
right.
I if I read the New York Times and I don't feel like I'm not getting a newspaper, and they're not printing a newspaper and sending it to me in Holliston, Massachusetts. Of course I'm going to subscribe to that because that's what I do, right?
Yeah.
That's where I find out my info.
You can only go so far before you hit the paywall, and you're like, all right, if I really want to dive in and understand what's going on here, I got to jump in and make some commitments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, so what do you want to talk about today?
So you have something on your mind. I was going to fill in with.
Fill in. What are you filling in?
I was gonna provide some. I thought about this the other day when I was sitting at the office, and I was kind of like working through this idea, and the idea was that there's this sort of estate planning things that you have to get done that we talk about this on the show all the time. But then I was thinking about there are also
Does it make up with like your estranged brother?
that could
So
be one of them.
yeah.
That could be one of them. But then I was thinking about these age specific action items, right? Like, okay, you got your healthcare proxy done, you get your power of attorney, that's fine. But then there are some other things that you need to do that are a little bit more not passive, like I got my estate plan done. And so I was kind of noodling through 2 or 3 of these things that are not, I got my estate plan done, but these are, I'm this age, I'm this many years old, and I need to go do these things. And I say that because people feel a little bit more invested on something when it's an age-based decision, right? Because it's a true milestone where they can say, I have to do this. Like, what's the one thing that everybody knows? The date, the age has changed, but what's the one thing that everybody knows they have to do when they turn 70 and a half? Right now it's 73.
It's 70.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to start. Well, the answer is you have to start taking money out of your retirement account, unless it's your 401k and you're still working.
That's right.
But if you have an
What's the one thing that everybody knows that they're probably going to do when they turn 65?
They're going to sign up for Medicare.
Correct.
Yeah.
And at some point, between this age and this age, they know that they're going to start taking what?
For those of you on radio, Jay was putting his hands at roughly about 10 to 12 inches apart. So this age and this age. So for those of you who don't know what ages he's talking about 62 to 70.
That's right. That's your job. Your job is to provide those answers, right?
62 to 70.
Right.
And it's in between some of those ages, you're going to start collecting your Social Security.
Correct. So that's what I was thinking about. I was like, you know what we need to do? We need to create
Let's talk the age.
We need to create some age-based action items from an estate planning perspective.
And this could be something that I was thinking about this. This is something that we could print. And if we had a graphic, right? We have a graphic, we could put this up on the Holliston Hub. But this is something we could print and almost like a magnet you put on your refrigerator, right? Like this.
I'm this many years old today. What do I need to do?
Honey,
Yep.
When Bob turns 62, he needs to start thinking about what he's going to do. Is he taking Social Security? Yes or no? It's almost like a flow chart, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So we
That's
need,
right. That's
I
right.
like that. I like that concept of that there are ages, because how many times do people ask me this all the time, right? So at what age, when should I start, thinking about long-term care insurance or something like that? And you're right, there may not be a specific number for that, but there's definitely a window, or there's definitely a time period, like in your life, like in kind of the rhythm of people's lives. So like if you're, let's say you're Bill Belichick, it might be different because, you might be in a different phase of your life that other normal 70-something-year-olds are because you have a 21-year-old girlfriend. But anyway, that's a different story.
24, but go ahead. Yep.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, right.
Makes a difference.
She's only 4 years old. 4 years younger than my oldest daughter.
Makes a difference.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, but like, if you're like in your early 50s, but let's say you have children that are still not necessarily that aren't in college yet, right? So you might be in a different space than somebody who got married earlier, had children younger, and you're in your early 50s, and then your kids are out of college. So there's a different time, it's a different like space in your in kind of your life retirement / estate / kind of life, nirvana journey towards financial nirvana.
Yeah, towards, what would the Vikings call it? Valhalla. It's your journey towards Valhalla. There you go. All right.
That's right. That's right. Sometimes I feel like I'm on my journey to Valhalla. I'm one of those guys that are in the bottom of the boat. You don't see daylight.
Yeah, rowing.
And you're rowing, all day, right? And you get like, I don't know what the break was.
So when I think about you in one of those Viking boats rowing, I think about like 300 guys rowing in one direction and you rowing in the other direction and like getting yelled at because you're not rowing with everything.
Right.
I see you going in a different path.
The boat's going in a circle.
Because of you.
Exactly.
Because you keep rowing against you're rowing against the row.
Yep. I'm rowing against, And
so that's what I think we should talk about. We should talk about sort of age-based estate planning action items.
Yeah, some of those milestones, just to keep in mind, like I said, if we can get some kind of a graphic and maybe,
we can do it.
Get a money in the law magnet to put on your refrigerator.
It's in process.
Okay, all right. We'll pick that up on the other side. Don't go away. Thank you for joining us this morning, by the way, on this beautiful Saturday morning. I'm sure it is, right?
Glorious.
Yeah, sure it is. Here on Money in the Law. Don't go away. We will be right back.
And you're back, My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, Main Effort Financial. Tommy's on the bag. He's getting the clubs polished up for us. He's calling the shots. He's reading the break, and we're good to go.
Speaking of clubs,
fire away.
I played my first round of golf.
First
round of golf this summer.
Where'd you play?
I played at the Ridgewood Country Club in Danbury, Connecticut.
Of course you
Ridgewood
did.
Country Club. And I'll tell you, and this is what I was going to talk about today, but we have I was going to talk about country club life. Yeah, the private
Save that, please.
the private country
That
club
needs
life.
some prep work.
And I was going to say, and it, it's a different world, right? But I have a couple of my buddies who were, my high school. This is our high school fundraiser. So I had a couple of those guys that are actually members of the Ridgewood Country Club.
All right, so let's do that. Let's talk about the economics of country club life.
Yeah,
on one of our next shows. coming up.
And one of the interesting things, and just to tease it a little bit, one of the interesting is one of my buddies who's he's an attorney as
Sure,
well.
of course.
Yeah, he goes to court, but it's a different kind of attorney.
Whoa,
yeah.
whoa. I think
I don't know what
that's
he's
a shot.
doing.
That's
Whoa,
a shot. Whoa. That's why he's at a country club.
That's right. And he's also the quintessential bachelor, never been married. So he's got a little bit.
There you go.
He's
got some extra walk-around cash.
He's a little more streamlined than everybody
Yep.
else. Yeah,
Yep.
and he also has his own drink when you're in trouble when the drink cart comes out.
Yeah.
And his name, my buddy's name is Jeff Jowdy. Great guy. And I always find myself in the cart with Jeff.
Of course you do.
Of course I do, right? So me and Jeff in the cart, and she comes up and she goes, hey, you guys want a JJ? And I look at him and I go, what did she say? And he goes, a JJ. And I go, is that a drink? And he goes, yeah, it's like whatever kind of adult beverage it was, whatever the mixture was. And I go, is it JJ meaning like Jeff Jowdy, like named after, because we call him JJ? And he goes, yeah,
of course, why wouldn't it
and
be?
he says, yeah, that's my, and
I'm
she,
insulted at the question.
right? And I was like, and he goes, and he looks at me, and goes, do you want a JJ? He goes, absolutely, I do.
Right, I do.
Absolutely. Now I want it even more.
I'll take two.
That's why I want it even more.
Hey, don't forget about me.
So I promised Jeff that I give him a little shout out to tell that JJ. But we'll save that for another show.
Maybe we need to make that JJ a JM.
I mean, and here's the thing. So Jeff, one more thing about Jeff, and I have a couple of other friends too. But Jeff seems very interesting. When I told him we do the show, because I told him I work with an attorney, and he's like, I got to meet this guy, and I'm like, you guys will be fast friends. He's like, anytime you guys want to come down and play, just tell me when, and I'll come down. So I mean,
Done and done.
I mean. Like I was gonna, you had me at JJ.
My clubs are in the car.
That's right. All right. So I'm gonna send. I'll send him the video of this to kind of tease it a little
That's
bit.
it. That's good.
And I mean, he may call you at the office. I mean, he may just be like, listen, you don't know me. My name's Jeff Jowdy. He goes, oh, I know you.
When I walk in today, he says, Jeff's on the phone. Put it right upstairs.
Jeff, his name's JJ.
Taking the stairs two at a time to get to the office.
My name's Jay. This is Jay twice.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's great.
This is
So
Jay
great.
and JJ.
So great.
Yeah,
So great.
that sounds like a fun day. Okay.
Yeah,
all right. So back to our topic here. So we're going to talk about kind of some of these age milestones.
Age-specific action items around your estate planning, because it helps people remember and it gives them a guide post, if you will, for when they need to start thinking about things. You said something before the break, long-term care insurance, right? When would you, right, and putting on your insurance hat, your financial robe, when would you say to somebody, it's time for you to start looking at long-term care insurance?
I'm wondering if my insurance hat is, I'm picturing it in the form of
it's like a Harry Potter wizard hat.
I was going to say, or some sort of a crown,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Or some really big like Texas cowboy hat,
Sure.
right? Yeah, one of the two, right? I think that's what those guys used to wear back in the conventions I used to go to. So if and again, long-term care insurance is a very kind of situation.
That's its own show on itself, but we're just talking about. If you're going to start looking at it, thinking about it.
Somebody's thinking about it, and they're kind of in that space, and it's time for them. Usually somewhere in like their early to mid. Maybe in their 60s, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So that's where, because people say to me, they'll be in their 50s and say, "Should I get long-term care insurance?" I'm like, I don't know. I feel like that you're a little young for that, because remember, long-term, and you're well versed in the long-term care world, right? So what's kind of the average age of when somebody kind of is into that situation where they need long-term care?
I think the long-term care insurance conversation happens around the time, and this is most people, unless you had a friend that sold you a whole life policy 38 years ago when he was in the industry for a hot second, right? Most people carry term insurance, right? Yep. So at some point, that term insurance goes away, because in theory, you've created the estate that you were looking for the term insurance to create if upon your untimely demise, right?
Yeah.
Your 401k has grown. You've probably paid off college, maybe. The house mortgage is not anywhere near what it was. So the shift, the asset shift has changed.
Well, the term insurance, that usually, we always say insurance has to have a specific purpose.
Yep.
99 out of 100 times, your life insurance purpose during that phase
Sure.
is to replace your income, right?
Yep.
Should you have the untimely, right? So where your income. Now, once you're retired, your income's coming from a different place, right?
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily have to replace your working income. You have your retirement income,
Right.
and that may or may not be in a situation where it may perpetuate whether you live or die, right? Yeah.
And so the event, the tragedy that you were trying to insure was your death, right? But now you've hopefully built up the estate so that the need for that has kind of faded away. So whatever the number is, I think it's when some of these term insurances and the need for life insurance and things like that go away, and you're literally just swapping out one insurance form for another insurance form. I was insuring for my untimely death as part of my life insurance policy. That has now expired. Now, do I want to redeploy those assets to another type of insurance, which is I'm now insuring against long-term care
Well, you
issues.
tell me. Yeah. So, what's the purpose of the long-term care insurance?
Well,
What goal is it going to achieve?
It's to keep you home. It's not to take care of your nursing home costs, right? It could be, but it's usually not because it would be too prohibitively expensive. It's designed to give you the resources to protect your money against that long-term care insurance cost, keep you home, bring services in the house if you need them, and then we can do a whole show around what types are available, but we tend to lean on those hybrid policies that give you a return of premium and things like that. So you're basically deploying money from one side of your net worth statement to another side of your net worth statement, and you're not signing on for a lifetime of payments. You're just trying to hopefully, again, you're ending these payments over here on life insurance, and you're picking them up with funding a long-term care insurance policy.
I mean, you sound like an insurance guy. I'm like, where do I sign? Right? I mean,
well, it's funny. I just happen to have a policy right here.
I was going to say. I mean, we're just missing missing to find the queen in this game of 3-card Monte right here.
Yep. But that's how we see it. So, and I agree with you. It's in like it's that usually happens around 60, right? I get an insurance policy that's going to wrap up in about 2 years. So when that wraps up, I'll start thinking about, okay, I probably don't need another one, but do I want to redeploy those insurance resources into this other type of policy?
So and again, it's all going to be your situation specific, right? So if you still got, a lot of bills to pay and you're still in that kind of accumulation mode for retirement, and you say, well, it's going to cost me $4,000 a year to pay for long-term care insurance, but I don't feel like you're ready for. I feel like you need to save that money for your retirement income.
Well, I was going to say, this list is when you should start thinking about it. It doesn't mean you have to have the policy in place. I'm not even suggesting you should have the policy. I'm just saying people want to know. It comes up on my meetings all the time. When do I look at long-term care insurance? Well, you usually look at it when you're transitioning. That's
good.
What I find. You're going from this insurance risk to this insurance risk. That's when you kind of transition into that. You think it's in the 60s? Probably a good time, right about there when
like in and around that retirement age, right? So that's the other piece of this is like you spend kind of your whole like adult lifetime saving for retirement, right? Because we always say you can't save too much for retirement. So you get to that point, and then it's like, okay, like Jay said, the long-term care insurance is there to kind of is to protect my money, right?
Yep.
Or to augment my money to give me flexibility if I find myself in a long-term care insurance or a long-term care situation down the road.
And some of these hybrid policies that are a 1-pay or a 10-pay, the timing around that sometimes matches up with. You might have some life event. God forbid something happens. You sell a piece of property, you inherit some money. You kind of come into some money. This is a good time to sort of think about, okay, well, how do I want to deploy some of this? Is there a good way for me to kind of make the best use of it rather than just, blow it on something a little bit frivolous, if you will? Not that you shouldn't do that with some of it, but this is an idea of, again, the window might open and you say to yourself, what a great opportunity to do something like this.
What a great opportunity to buy a $120,000 automobile. That would be great.
That's fine too.
Yeah,
you have a choice. You can buy a $120,000 automobile or you can buy a $275,000 long-term care insurance policy. Which one do you think you'll get the most enjoyment out of?
You know what? I don't know.
You'll enjoy the car. You won't know that you're enjoying the long-term care insurance policy. That's usually what's going to happen.
You know what?
So that's in your 50s, early 60s. We're talking about that. What are you thinking about around age 70? What do you think? What are we talking about from an estate planning action item? What are you thinking about?
So at so again, like my financial plan and my estate plan, they kind of work together, right?
do. They
They're
do.
like they're and if they're kind of in step with one another, then you're in the right church, right?
Sure.
You're doing
Yep.
the right thing. So so right around at age 70, so age 70 is that's the time when if I haven't taken my Social Security, so this is from the retirement planning.
Yeah.
Age 70 is that's the end of Social Security waiting, right?
Yep.
So for those of you, if you've waited that long
You're getting a check.
because you didn't need your Social Security at that point, and your situation may have said, you know what, I'm still working, I'm working, and I want to. When I hit age 70, or whether I'm not going to be, I want to have the maximum amount of Social Security. I want to have that. I'm treating Social Security as an income stream more so than an asset.
Yep.
Right? We've talked about this before. So at that point, I'm like, hey, you know what? At age 70, that's when, because my Social Security ain't going to get any more.
Nope.
I'm not going to. It's
Doesn't
not going to
get
go
bigger.
up. It's
Doesn't
not
get
going to
bigger.
go up after that. So at age 70, if I haven't taken my Social Security, I'm absolutely taking my Social Security at that point.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So on the estate action side, we're trying to say to people, because they'll ask all the time, I want to do some protections on my house. Everybody wants to talk about irrevocable trusts. They want to do all this stuff. And so what we'll say to somebody is, if you have not thought about that, if you haven't thought about, do I want to get my house out of my name and things like that, around 70 is a good age to sort of sit down and seriously have that conversation. Now, I'm not saying you do it. I'm not saying you don't do
Again,
it.
it's all situation dependent, right?
This is all about just what do I need to be thinking about?
Yeah.
And the reason we say that is because in many cases, now the demographic is skewing a little bit differently on this, but at many cases by 70, people have kind of decided this is not my forever home. If I was going to downsize, I probably would have already done it, right? So I can say with some
If you coulda, you woulda.
I can say with some degree of certainty, right, that this is where I'm going to be. And you also, because now it's the latest you can wait to get Social Security, you also have a really good handle on what your income looks like at this point, right? So then you can probably say with, again, it's never perfect certainty, but you can sort of say to yourself, do I think my house factors into as an asset or being used as an asset when I retire? Right? And if the answer is no, I think between my Social Security and maybe a pension and maybe my retirement money and my wife's income, I'm never going to need the money that this house would turn into. This is
When you say your wife's income, because your wife is still going to be working at this point?
Hopefully yes. But if not, that's fine too.
Hopefully she's not listening to today's program. Don't worry.
But the idea
Damn,
is
you're
that
not
you'll
working.
the idea is that you'll have a bit of a handle on some of this stuff, right? And by and again, maybe the answer is, you know what? We're glad we examined the situation, but we're not ready to do it, right?
Yeah.
Or we really are. This is all about just asking the right questions at kind of around the right time.
I like the 70 number. I like this, and I don't know why.
Sure.
I mean, because it's a 0 birthday, and
Sure.
but I like the 70 number in the sense that because if you're smart, you've already talked about this. You've already had this conversation. You've already said, hey, should I put my house into an irrevocable trust? Because the question before that is, what's your plan? Like, how long are you going to, do you see yourself staying here for, and oftentimes based on kind of the age, if you have adult children, that could be a determining factor is kind of where you're going to end up. So, if you're in your early to mid 60s, your adult children may not be full adults yet, meaning they may not be kind of settled in their careers and their life and their, anchored in their first place. So that's why, but they might be, right? So, and again, remember the reason, what's the reason why I put this into, why would I consider putting my real estate or my house into an irrevocable trust?
Well, you're trying to do two things. You're trying to secure a legacy, right? You say to yourself, look, I know the house, whatever the valuation of the house is or the money that the house would turn into, this is kind of wrapping a protective wrapper around my house. So I'm going to put it in the irrevocable trust so that if I ever show up on the doorstep of a nursing home and I think Medicaid is my plan, the house doesn't count as an asset. That's usually the reason people are doing it, okay? And so that's the idea. The idea is that, you know what, at least I'm going to leave them the house. The rest of it I'm going to spend, but the goal is that they're at least going to get the money that the house would turn into, or if they want the house, whatever it is, that's up to them. That's usually what people are thinking about.
Yeah, and that's a good conversation to have, that we have, because people be like, yeah, I really want to, I want to leave a legacy, right? And, for us is when you put on your retirement planning hat,
Sure.
You're going to be like, yeah, I get you want to leave a legacy, but you need money in retirement.
Can you afford to leave a legacy?
Exactly,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Like, one thing, the leaving a legacy is great, but I'm not going to do it at the expense of you eating spam and
That's right.
and not being able to go on vacations and when you're 67 as opposed to waiting until you're 87. Like,
That's right.
it's so if the house is going to be that, the house oftentimes could find itself in that situation where it could be a legacy. It could,
That's right.
Could present that legacy, and the idea of protecting it inside the irrevocable trust, in the case that potential, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, that you're in that Medicaid situation, at least your house is.
Well, and there's an exclusion for people who have a house and have long-term care insurance. So the state will say, look, you've actually taken the steps to cover yourself and take care of yourself. There's a minimum threshold on what the policy has to offer. But those two conversations are going to happen, in and or around the same time, right? And you might say to somebody, look, I'm 65. I want to look at long-term care insurance. And then you're going to ask questions about the house and things like that. And they're going to say, well, we might need that for our income down the road. And you can say, well, that's fine. And then they're going to say, but my friends are all putting it into an irrevocable trust. And you could say to them, well, you know what? You don't have to worry about
Your
that.
friends have a lawyer that is dying to do trust. Yeah.
Because you're buying a long-term care insurance policy. So that risk of your house being an issue from a Medicaid perspective doesn't exist for you, right? So that's where having these conversations, in and around each other really makes sense.
Yeah, wouldn't that make sense?
Wouldn't that
All right,
be nice?
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and hit some more of these numbers. We have several more numbers for your refrigerator list.
Hopefully
Make
you get a
sure
lot
that
of
you
numbers.
see
Yeah,
them.
yeah. That's the goal.
Right.
That's the goal.
Yeah. At 106, what do I need to do?
It's on the list. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, it's on the list. All right. 110, that's on
Yeah,
the list.
there
All
you
right.
go.
Don't go away. We'll be right back on Money and Law.
And we're back. Money in the Law, My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, Mainnet for Financial. Tommy's on the bag. We are talking about age-based action items.
Before we get into that, I just
from an estate planning perspective.
Always
Can I
coming
finish
back.
my intro?
Finish.
Go ahead. Age-based action items around your estate planning and maybe some of your financial planning. Okay, back to you.
Yeah, it's really important. Listen, no.
Go ahead.
No, it is. I have a serious question to ask.
Go
you.
ahead.
Have you been playing any guitar?
No.
Me neither.
Yeah,
I know. And today I put
It
this.
taunts me as I walk by
I put
it.
this shirt on today. Thinking like, wow, this looks like a good guitar shirt. I don't know why.
That's a
I have
guitar
no
shirt.
idea why, but I'm thinking looks like a shirt that a guy who plays guitar would wear,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's
Sure,
like,
sure.
it's
Performance wear.
Well, what it does is it kind of hides a little of the
Covers up the belt buckle so you don't have to
Exactly.
scratch the back of the guitar. I got you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we talk about it. So potentially, and I don't know the exact date. So but there's going to be a fundraiser that's going to happen for the Holliston Community Action Fund,
Ooh.
and it's going to be music. And so the concept of this is I have a real guitar player. Not that you're not a real
No,
guitar
please,
player,
not.
but I have.
Offense taken, but
Put
go
it this way: he's current, right?
Got it,
He's current.
got it.
You're not current, right?
Got it,
I mean,
right.
and he's current, and he wants to go. But what I'm trying to steer him to do is to say, hey,
Like
it's
an
kind of
open
a little bit of a music festival,
Yeah.
and he plays, but then there's some other guys that can kind of join
Open
in
mic
and
type.
a
Yep,
song or
yep,
two.
yep.
And he kind of just, it's almost like he kind of
MCs it.
he just kind of makes sure that the song gets from point A to point B,
Yeah.
while the other hacks. Not
Yeah.
hacks. I'm not saying, but
Hacks.
the other guys,
Fill it in.
people,
Yeah.
So
right,
so
stay
that's
tuned,
what I'm saying.
everybody.
I'm teasing
That's
it out.
exciting.
I'm
All
teasing
right.
it out.
All
So
right.
so my point is, tune that guitar.
Do we know a save the date or no?
It's going to be in either the first or second week of November.
All right.
So,
Okay.
and it's
All
going to be at Rushford and Sons, which
Closer to
is 747.
that's no surprise
747
whatsoever
Washington
right there.
Street, Rushford and Sons.
Yep.
Yeah. So
You think it's a coaster? It's actually an insurance policy, but that's all right. That's all right.
You think it's a law firm?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
More to follow.
All right.
Okay. So back to our date.
So back to our list. Back to our list. So these are your age-based action items. So we talked about 70 irrevocable trust. We talked about mid-60s, thinking about long-term care insurance. So now you're at your 75, right? You're in and around 75.
75.
All right.
God willing, you make it to 75,
Love it.
right?
Yep. The whole thing's God willing, right?
Yep.
But so here's the thing at 75. All right. This is my as an outside observer. Okay.
What happens at 75?
Here's what you should be doing at 75. I think
some
you
of
should
the
be doing at 75. Right. Let's start consolidating those assets.
Right.
Okay? Like, I know 10 years ago when you got your loan at the credit union and they gave you a sweetheart of a deal on that Corolla, but you had to open up an account with
long as
them
you got
to get
that
it
account
going,
open, right.
That's great. The car is long since gone, right? You're probably not even driving anymore, whatever's going on, right? But let's wrap up the account.
That happened to me the other day.
I know it does.
We had a car that's been 3 years gone,
Yep.
and I had this credit union, like $200. I'm like,
Thank you.
what is this? Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Thank
so I
you.
called them. I'm like, hey, is this for my current car? I'm like, no, that car, we don't have, that car's been gone. Right?
Yeah. So this is my ask. Let's start consolidating stuff. Okay?
Good.
You don't need 4 bank accounts.
Streamline it,
You really
right?
don't. And by the way, I say this with love because somebody is going to have to figure out your crazy accounting scheme, right? And I understand, like, well, I got a pension check, and the pension check goes into the checking account that's at the credit union because that's where I pay my property
Yep,
taxes.
that's where all that
And
comes
then-
from.
And then
Yep.
I got my Social Security check, and that's what we live off of. And everybody
Directly out.
understands that.
Yeah.
Everybody understands that. Okay, stop doing it.
Different bank. Yeah. Shut it down.
That's right. Shut it down. Shut it down. Right.
Yeah.
Let's have a bank. Let's have a checking account. Let's have a savings account. Okay, and then let's have a brokerage account.
Believe it or not, you can actually change the bank your Social Security check goes to.
They do let you do it.
People don't get that.
Well, let me tell you something. Not only do they let you do it, it's a pain in the neck if it has to be your kids doing it. Because guess what? Because that's what I'm going to tell them to do
Yeah.
when they come in to do this Medicaid thing with me, right? I'm going to say, well, you're going to close all those bank accounts down. So you know what? Let's get in front of that now. Let's start simplifying our life, okay? Let's start putting some things on auto pay out of one checking account and savings account. And by the way, when I say checking and saving, I mean at the same bank.
Yeah, same
Don't-
bank. So when I get on my app,
Yep.
hey, Dad, look at this. This is how this app works.
Yep. And not even that. How about when just the statement comes in, I can see. And by the way, and get if you don't have it already, I don't even know if they do this anymore, but get the feature that the checks show up on the bank statement, right? So everybody can see how the money's being
believe
spent.
that?
This is all as a way to be able to figure out if something ever happens to you, that they can make managing your stuff a heck of a lot easier.
Yeah.
That's really what this is all about. And I know people think I don't want to do that. I got a way I do things. You know what? I hate to say it.
Shut
you're
it
going to
down.
have to do it differently. You're
Yeah.
going to have to do it. Do yourself a favor. Do somebody a favor, and let's start consolidating.
I'll tell you. So if you're one of those people that has done this, for forever, right?
Yep.
And I'm as guilty as anybody. I have
Guilty as charged,
I
yep.
have 7 different savings buckets, right?
Yep.
And it's worked for us, right? And I think my wife understands it for the most part. I don't really know, but like there's the vacation fund, there's the college tuition fund, there's this money we save for Christmas. There's like
Yep.
so that's all well and good, but we're working now. Like this, so once you get to the point where you're like, hey, I'm retired.
Yeah.
I get income from 2 places,
Yeah.
maybe.
Things get a little binary.
Yeah.
Things get a little like, there's not as many moving parts. I'm with you 100%. I got accounts scattered to the 4 corners for compliance reasons, for business reasons, for all this other stuff. But if I was just literally just like running a credit card to pay for golf and beer, it only needs to come out of one account.
Yeah.
Right. So let's kind of consolidate that. And that's where your savings account, that's where the savings account can do a lot of the heavy lifting, right? Because a lot of these deposit arrangements will let you do these deposits into the savings account.
Yeah.
So let that be the place that you kind of build up all your extra cash, and then you can pay your property taxes, pay your excise taxes, and all this other stuff. But let's start to consolidate
You know what I
things.
hate to say? I hate to say is
right.
that so you're saying this at 75, right?
Yep.
I mean,
You're
it doesn't
saying-
have to. I mean, you could wait till 75.
Well,
I mean,
let's. So again, the theme is that if you need an
you haven't done it
age-based
yet-
signpost,
Yeah.
this is the signpost.
if you
right?
if you haven't done it yet and
Yep.
you get to 75, it's time to do it.
time to start thinking about it.
Yeah, you're probably overdue, but yeah, 75 is that's a good time to be like, all right, you know what? Let's dumb this down.
And look, I get it. I get it. Milford Fed runs a special on some killer CD, and that's
you
great.
love going into the bank. They know you at the bank.
But the amount of let's be real here. The amount of money that you're putting into that CD, and the grief and the aggravation and the gas money and the headache and the legal fees that are going to show up when we have to probate this is going to dwarf whatever super Benny you think you're
That's it.
getting between a 6.1 CD and a 6.2 CD.
That's a great example, right? Like, you know what it is? It's lawyer tough love coming at you. Like, look, I'll tell you what, that's great. You got 4.35% at this CD as opposed to 4.15% at your normal bank. But guess what? Guess what that 0.2% isn't going to cover? It's not going to cover his bill when he has to put this all through probate.
Yep.
It's
that's
just
exactly
how it
right.
works.
Yep. That's exactly right.
It's not worth it.
No, it's not worth it at all. It's not worth it at all. So that's the idea. So the idea is consolidate and make sure that if you're putting kids' names on accounts, again, you're only going to have one checking account, one savings account. Put a kid's name on it either as a joint owner, if you're comfortable with them being as a joint owner, or put them on as a beneficiary so that if something happens to you, they can roll into the bank and take out some money.
Yep.
That's it. That's the whole idea. That's around 75-ish. That's what we'd love to see happen at
I like that.
75-ish.
Yeah, if it hasn't happened already.
All right,
I like
that's
to see it
75. Consolidate.
I like to see it around 65. But you know what?
I just like to see it. I just like to see it happen. I just like to see it happen.
Just tell me it's going to happen.
Yep, I like to see it happen. So that brings us to about 80. All right.
Okay.
So 80. So there's two
I
things.
wake up, I'm 80, right?
Two
It's my
things.
80th birthday. What am I doing? First thing I'm doing, playing 9 holes of golf.
Yep, that's right.
I'm
Yep.
playing 9 holes of
You can have
golf.
steak and eggs for breakfast.
Right? Yep.
Smoke a cigar.
Yep. I did an open water swim already. I
Yep.
did my 3-mile, Peloton or
Two
whatever.
fingers, 2 cubes before you hit the course. Right? Absolutely. Right? Maybe a nice Cuban cigar before you get your day rolling.
What could go wrong?
Right?
Right. Yeah.
Perfect.
There you go.
Perfect life right
Yeah.
there. Right? So at 80, this is where you can start thinking about, because the hope at this point is, hey, look, you know what? I feel like I've kind of won the game
I've
a
won
little
the
bit.
game. Yep.
Right? And you can start really giving some thought to gifting. You can sit down and say to yourself, and again, the limit is 19 a year. It doesn't have to, it's not 19 or nothing. It doesn't have to be 19, right? This is where you can really sit down and start saying to yourself, can I afford to, and am I comfortable with? Am I charitably
Well, do I
inclined
want
my
to,
family?
right?
Do I want to do this? Do
Yeah.
I want to do this, right? This is a great time to sit down and say, you know what? I'll throw a couple of bucks at the grandkids' college education. Again, $5,000 a year, that's a big deal, right? If that's what you want to do, if that's part of the legacy you want to leave, that has huge benefits.
Yeah, so if you're doing this at this stage of the game, right, you're 80 years old, again, depending upon what your age of your children
Yeah,
are,
age, your finances, and all that stuff. Sure.
Yeah. So, but it's the kind of thing where now you're, and who knows how? I mean, if you're at Main Effort Financial, you're living another 30 years. All of our projections
Sure.
go out to age 110. But if I'm 80 years old, you're like, okay, I'm 80.
Yep.
I'm in good shape. Knock on wood. I don't have any health issues. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows? You could be 50 in the same and think the same way. But from a resource standpoint of how much of these resources am I going to need theoretically to get me to age 110, right?
Yep.
And again, 110 that's a ways away.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's like, okay, if I have, a brokerage account that's got $1 million in it, right? Because I've saved money and I've invested well and I've proportionally I've budgeted well and I've retired well. Like I've retired comfortably, but at the same time I wasn't frivolous with my money. What are the odds of that I'm going to spend this money?
Right. That's right.
What are the odds that I'm going to need this money to spend on myself over the course of the next 20 to 30 years, if I live that long?
Well, I mean, the odds could be. I don't know what the odds are. I don't know.
That's it.
You don't know what people's spending plan is. But this is what people have asked. Well, when do I start thinking about this? This is when you start thinking about it. Now, thinking about it doesn't mean doing it. Thinking about it means making a conscious decision to say to yourself, I can afford to start doing a little bit of gifting. And this is the comfort level I have from a financial perspective of doing that gifting. But this is when I can probably think about doing it because I've probably won the game. Or I have a pretty good idea at this point if I've won the game. And if the answer is you haven't won the game, then you say to yourself, look, I would like to do gifting, but I don't have the money to do gifting. It would affect my lifestyle. And by the way, I already did the gift. The gift was the house into the irrevocable trust. That was the gift.
Yep.
So you're still doing gifting. You're just doing it differently, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of factors to take into consideration when you're doing gifting too. So if you're kind of in that space where, well, my eventual long-term care plan is that I'm going to apply for Medicaid, but I'm going to start gifting right now. You have to take that into consideration because that gift, you have your 5-year look back.
5-year look back
for
Yep.
gifts. So if I think if your gifting strategy is, well, I'm going to give this money away so I don't have to give it to the man if I fall into a long-term care situation, your estate planning attorney is going to say, okay, this is a good idea only if the clock starts. And that's another reason. So if you're 80 years old, you kind of reach this milestone and you're like, okay, I feel pretty good. I don't know where I'm going to be in 5 years, but right now I feel good. Right now I don't necessarily want to, I don't need all this money.
Right.
But at the same time, I might need it down the road if I find myself in a long-term care situation.
And so we might do some math and say, well, that's fine. If you're going to do some gifting, this is the appropriate amount of money to give, okay? Because even after giving this amount of money, you have left yourself enough money to pay yourself through the next 5 years in the unlikely event that you need to kind of change your situation.
Sure.
Maybe you're not living at home anymore. Maybe there's an assisted living on your horizon. And you'll know, any health issues at this point, anything that's going to be chronic has probably definitely bubbled to the surface. So there's a lot more conversation going on around, what's the landscape look like in terms of whether or not gifting is in the cards for me, or is it not in the cards for me because I really need to make sure that I'm living my life and living it in a way that's going to leave me the resources to kind of continue to do what I want to do.
Right. And then you could also be in that other side of the other space, that 1% or 1% of 1% space where gifting might be something that you're like, hey, I have an estate that I am going to, I'm going to pay some form of an estate tax on, whether it be a state estate tax or whether it be a federal estate tax, right? So I may be in that space where I may be thinking more about bigger gifts, and then the gift planning that goes along with that. But if I'm at 80 years old and I haven't given any money away, and kind of depending upon what my situation is, I could make a difference to my family, right? So I may say, if my kids let's say I have one child, and I say, look, my kid's never bought a house.
Yeah. And
guess what? I'm going to buy him a house.
And this could be. I'm not saying this has to be an annual thing, right? This could be a one-time gifting piece of the puzzle, right? You say to yourself, well, I put my house in an irrevocable trust 5 years ago. That's protected. That's behind the curtain. But oh, by the way, I do, to your point exactly, I have these other things that another round of gifting, one more, not every year, not necessarily has to be every year, would make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Someone's trying to upgrade their house. There might be a conversation that says, look, I'm going to come and live in your house.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not living, but you want to buy a house, I can throw some money
I got
at
good
you.
news and bad news, right? Yeah. Dad's moving in.
Yeah. Good news.
Good news. You're
I'm
getting
gonna
the addition.
Good news. I'm going to give you some money for the house. But guess what the money comes with? Me, right? Oh, great. Fantastic.
Great news. We're redoing the kitchen.
Yeah, that's right. So
even better. I'm cooking in it. Let's go.
So those are the things that you got to think about. Is it the time to say, okay, where does kind of the landscape take me, right? That's the idea. So that's around, again, these numbers are fluid, right? But the idea is that there are some action items around this.
All right, I think we have time for one. I think
one more.
You have one more number on here.
One more number, then we'll
keep going.
And then the last
I
number.
love the estate planning, right?
Well, the last idea is that at some point you say to yourself, you know what? Right around 80 to 85. Does it make sense for me to be my own, to be my spouse's healthcare proxy? Does it make sense for her to be the power of attorney? You may have slowed down a little bit. There may be some cognitive issues at play here. So you got to do a couple things. You got to think about maybe it's time to move the kids up, to let them be our healthcare proxies, let them be our powers of attorney. If everyone's pulling the rope in the same direction, everyone's going to be talking about it, that's fine. And then the other thing, and you could talk about this from the financial side, which is, oh, by the way, those big rollover IRA accounts that you have, you probably got to fill out some paperwork to get somebody on there as POA,
right?
Because the Fidelity and the Schwabs of the world don't let you just walk in with the document and take out $100,000.
Yeah.
You got to have a little bit of pre-planning done, and that means having mom or dad sign the POA paperwork that you did with me to get the power of attorney that I did added to those big brokerage accounts. So that's something that we've talked about.
That's power of attorney. That's POA. That's lawyer talk.
Lawyer lingo.
Yeah, they throw that
lawyer
stuff
lingo.
out there. Yeah.
So there you have it, folks. Those are your age-based action items from an estate planning perspective.
So as I'm thinking about this, right, I'm thinking about okay, we're going to put this on a magnet.
Yes, we are.
We're going to put this on a magnet. We have to there has to be some other thing to look forward to other than putting my kid as the power of attorney. When I hit 85, I'm going to look at this on my refrigerator every day.
The magnet will come with a clip that you can hang your DNR on right on your refrigerator. It will keep it all in one location.
That's
nothing says excitement. Nothing says exciting.
Do not
Exciting
resuscitate.
than that. It's right up there by the list.
Yeah.
By the list. There
it's
you
right.
go.
It's right underneath Billy's baseball card that he got from Little League.
We'll sell two versions. One version comes with the clip for your DNR. The other one comes with a bottle opener.
Yeah.
There you you go.
There's
Right
a
in the
box.
fridge.
So what I was thinking is that maybe, and we can think about this, we could add some other things that you can do at
Sure.
85 that aren't necessarily. So maybe we'll
Skydiving.
we'll put this
We'll do
kind
other
of,
stuff.
we'll put the whole power of attorney stuff, right? We'll put the old,
Yeah.
like gift some money to your kids. We'll put that at the end.
We'll
Yeah.
money and law it up.
Yeah,
You'll be good.
it'll be
We'll
good.
money
All
and law
We're
it
going
up.
to work on that. We may have the prototype ready for you by the next show. All right, that's a good show. The
beta version.
Yeah. All right. Well, all right. Great
That's it.
seeing you.
Great show. Good to see
seeing
you as
you.
always.
All right. We'll see
Great,
you
Tommy.
next week. All right. Everybody, thanks for joining us here on Money in the Law on My FM 101.3 and also the Holliston Hub. The artist formerly known as HCAT. We'll see everybody next time.
Have a great week. Great weekend.
Have a great week. Work hard and enjoy the weather.
Play harder.
Enjoy. All right. See you next time.
See you.